In this video, we would be looking at the application of Section 37C of the Pension Funds Act. Section 37C was introduced into the Act in 1976 with a particular social objective. The social objective of Section 37C was to move away from the beneficiary nomination, where payment was made into the estate of a deceased member, and the emphasis with the introduction of Section 37C is on financial dependency of the potential dependents of a deceased member. Section 37C creates a statutory scheme of distribution which overrides any other provision in any other legislation or the common law, or even in customary law, or the rules of the fund. In terms of the statutory scheme of distribution, the trustees need to do a number of things in order to ensure that there is compliance with the statutory scheme. In this first phase of the investigation, the trustees would search for dependents, and these dependents need to prove their financial dependency on the deceased member. Once the trustees have identified all the potential dependents, they've got to review the facts and then make a decision which is fair and equitable given the circumstances of each case. In terms of the statutory scheme of distribution, trustees need to look at the financial dependency of the potential dependents of a deceased member. Important for trustees to remember in doing so is that the will of a deceased member or the beneficiary nomination form of a deceased member would only be used as a guideline, and they are not bound by a beneficiary nomination form or the contents of a will of the deceased member. Section 37C then contemplates three categories of dependents. Number one is legal dependents. Number two would be non-legal or factual dependents. And number three would be future dependents. In terms of the legal dependents are persons that can enforce a right to maintenance. In this particular category, we would be looking at the children of a deceased member, because parents owe their children a duty of support, spouses owe each other a duty of support, and any other person that can enforce a right to maintenance in a court of law. This category, legal dependency, makes it quite easy for the trustees in terms of evidence. When we get to factual financial dependency, these are people that the deceased member has got no obligation to maintain, but factually these people were maintained by the member. In this particular category would fall a life partner, any person that was factually financially supported by the deceased member. The difficulty with this particular definition is that the trustees must get proof that the person was factually financially dependent on the deceased member. In terms of future dependency, these are legal dependents that were not at the time of death dependent on the deceased member, but had he not died, he would have become legally liable for their maintenance. In this particular category would fall children born after the death of the deceased member, and financially independent parent that may become financially dependent on the deceased member had he not died. Certain methods of payment are sanctioned by the Act, and these are payment into a trust, provided that if payment is made into a trust, the trust had to be nominated by the member before his death, or the trust could be nominated by the guardian of minor children, or it can be made by the dependent himself. The second method of payment sanctioned by the Act is a direct payment to the beneficiary, and trustees would invariably make a direct payment to a major beneficiary. If there are children, the payment is made to the guardian, and the default payment is always to the guardian. If the trustees for any particular reason need to deviate from the default payment, they would then have to justify that decision. Trustees can also make a payment into a beneficiary fund, a fund that has been established by the registrar in 2007 with a particular aim and object of bringing trust within the control and supervision of the registrar of pension fund. Trustees can also make a payment to a caregiver. A caregiver is defined in the Children's Act as the person that is responsible for the daily maintenance need of a child under the age of 18. The particular provision was introduced in 2007 with the aim and object of taking care of child-headed households and households where there has been no appointment of a guardian in terms of a statutory process.